All right, everyone, why don't we get started? Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for attending our San Ysidro Creek Bridge ceremony. My name is Scott McGolpin. I'm the Public Works Director for the County of Santa Barbara Public Works Department. Thank you. Thanks, Abe. Our Public Works team was responsible for building the new bridge before you today, and our hope with this bridge is it restores the emergency access that we used to have here before the 1-9 debris flow. It also provides that connectivity to the community again for bicyclists, pedestrians, trail walkers, what have you here in the community. Before we get started, I do want to recognize a few people who are here today. Our supervisor from the 1st District, Supervisor Doss Williams, is here. And then my Public Works team, I got Julie Hagan, Chris Snedden, two of our leaders in Public Works, executive leaders, outstanding deputy directors. They're around here. Raise your hands. You'll hear from Andrew Myung here as part of the program. He's our finance gentleman in Public Works, and he also took on the role of disaster recovery manager for the 1-9 debris flow, and just did a superb job. Our bridge team, Phil Gaston, Leroy Cadena, and Brent Clavin. So you'll hear from Phil as well. He'll talk about the construction experience. We want to thank Lapidus Construction and their subcontractors for building the bridge. TNT Crane was here, Interstate Rebar, and Terra Firma Drilling as well. We want to thank our neighbors around the project site who were certainly very patient during construction and over the years waiting for us to kind of cobble together the funding to make this project a reality and to get this connectivity back in for the community. We have John and Terry Keating who are here, and they're right here, and it's their home being reconstructed. And I want to give John a thanks in advance here. He's going to share his story with us today, and we really appreciate him taking the time to do that. Kevin and Danette Knuckles are here. And Chris Hunt. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting these folks, but thank you, neighbors. And really in Public Works, we can't really get projects done without partners and partners in the neighbors, but then also partners in nonprofits that exist in the community. And two real champions in Montecito as far as nonprofits that help make this project a reality are the Montecito Trails Foundation and Ashley Mayfield. She's been spectacular and really kind of gave us the lead on the bridge supplier, and it saved the taxpayers of Santa Barbara County a few $100,000. So we thank her for that, and we can't say enough thanks for the Bucket Brigade, Abe and his team, Christy, Keith Hom, and Anna Fagan. The work that they're doing around the community to help stand Montecito back up again is just incredible and really setting an example for other nonprofits around the community and the country. So thank you very much. So just a little background on the bridge. The first bridge at this location, believe it or not, was destroyed by a debris flow as well in 1964. That followed the Coyote Fire. After that second bridge was built at this location in the 60s, that bridge was destroyed by the debris flow on 1-9. So our hope is the third time will be the charm here for the Montecito community in this bridge. And we've used new materials. The bridge is higher. It's going to allow more water to pass underneath. But I hope everyone realizes the debris flow was a geologic event. And we can't design to those conditions because there just isn't enough money. There really isn't enough funding to take care of what we have today. So we have certain standards that we have to meet, and this bridge meets current standards. We're currently about a quarter mile below the San Ysidro debris basin. That was built right after the Coyote Fire. And on the morning of 1-9, as everyone knows out here in the community, the system was completely inundated and overrun by the debris flow that came off the hills. In fact, we measured some of the debris remnants on the trees around the debris basin, and it was about 14 feet above the dam at that debris basin. So pretty incredible. And we're standing really today on the path of the debris in the area of the gas explosion that morning. As I mentioned, the new bridge is higher, and our hope it's going to last much, much longer. And this project really is one of the many projects that the county has undertook in Montecito with the goal of helping to stand the community back up after that horrific day. And today we celebrate a milestone in that recovery process, and we look forward to acknowledging completion of future projects as they come in the future. So let's dive into what went into making this project a reality today. And our first speaker will be my construction engineer, Phil Gaston.
Thank you, Scott. Wow, it's really good to see everybody here. Thanks for coming. I got emotional driving down here. I was here the day after the event when this was still on fire. Our number of trees were still on fire. And this is just a really, really awesome day to see you all here and to have, like Scott said, some reconnection and hopefully some healing and some movement past the event. The main thing about this bridge, as we approached it, was one, hey, get it done ASAP, because this has been 3 years. And so back in May, we worked hard to procure the bridge, actually even earlier than that. And we did get a very competitive price on this bridge. The local contractor, Peter Lapidus, was actually shocked, and I was too. It was very competitive. I think the grand total for everything, including our local contractor, was around $400,000. So, I mean, this is in this day and age, even with the pandemic, we saw prices going up more often than not. So, the biggest thing to me was that we wanted it to be context sensitive, and given what this location is, we weren't going to put back a 30-foot wide bridge. And then also the looks, we wanted it to look good, so we thought the weathering still gave it a more natural, elemental look. And also the bicycle rails and the pedestrian rails are built in, they're integral to the structure. The civil layout of the whole site work that we did here was designed by our in-house team. So they did a great job. The bridge itself was designed by Excel Bridge Company and their engineers. The deep foundations, the new bridge is on deep foundations. The old bridge was not. They were designed by Greg Rendy, a consulting engineer. The biggest thing that's different about this bridge is, in my opinion, it's better looking, has better pedestrian and bicycle safety. The old bridge had just, I believe, just little wooden rails that were very low. And as you've noticed also, the old bridge we left in place. That was for a number of reasons, primarily environmental. We didn't want to do more damage than's already been done here, but also in terms of the timeline. As Scott mentioned, the bridge is at a higher elevation than previously the previous bridge, so there is going to be a larger conveyance area for water to flow under it. Overall, I just want to express a big thank you to everybody that worked on the project, our designers, and Brent Clavin was our inspector here, and Leroy Cadena was the designer. And then also a very, very big thank you to all the neighbors, especially the Keatings, but also the Hunts and the Knuckles. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Fabulous job to you and your team, and really appreciate the effort out here. And thank you, sir. At this time, I'd like to invite Andrew Myung up. I mentioned him earlier. He took on the role of county's disaster recovery manager for this event and was just a superstar. He cobbled together all the different funding sources needed to make this project a reality. He built teams and he found a path through the FEMA maze. If anyone's ever dealt with federal funding, it's quite a process. And Andrew was able to overcome every challenge to put that project funding together so we could be standing here today to celebrate this. Andrew?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Myung. I served as the County Cost Recovery Manager for the 1-9 debris flow for Santa Barbara County. It's wonderful to be here with all of you to celebrate the reopening of this bridge. Like many other disaster projects throughout Montecito, securing funding for a project like this required a very high level of coordination and partnership across local agencies, county engineers, county attorneys, disaster workers, and fiscal staff. This strong partnership is what allowed us to successfully stitch together a compelling and accurate account of what happened on January 9th, 2018, which ultimately led to successful funding for rebuilding efforts like this throughout the Montecito community. So many folks from the Public Works Transportation team were involved, but I just wanted to take a brief moment to thank a few individuals from our transportation team who were largely responsible for writing the grant applications. Charlie Elbert, Diana Astorga, and Ron Bencel. They might be a little bit annoyed that I mentioned them here, but I'm so thankful to work with such outstanding individuals who are the definition of public service and who press forward each day with an unwavering sense of ownership and purpose for our community. And I'm honored to be part of this effort as well. So thank you all.
Thank you, Andrew. Great job. At this time, I'd like to invite First District Supervisor Dos Williams up to the podium. I cannot thank Dos enough for all the support he's provided to my department, Public Works, to help us stand Montecito up again. He's with us shoulder to shoulder. He's in the ditches helping us put these projects together and get the community rebuilt. And for that, sir, I can't say thanks enough.
Thank you, Scott. I just want to tell you how honored and humbled I am to speak here, shoulder to shoulder with our public works staff, who you've got to know have the biggest can-do attitude of any government department I've ever worked with in my life. They are in the midst of more road work in this community than has ever taken place in history. It's about $10 million worth of road work. So obviously, please have patience with staging. But in my view, every road repaired, every house rebuilt, every bridge erected back up is a part of our community's recovery and is part of it along with every heart that is mended. It's an honor to also get to thank other partners, the San Ysidro Ranch, and the neighbors themselves. I was here soon after the flow as part of ironically, a water delivery into the community, and the park staff took me up here after we had delivered water, and it was a moonscape, an alien landscape, something out of a Tolkien novel of Mordor or a description of an alien world. And it is so amazing to see this place regaining its beauty, to hear that creek, moderate flow coming down the mountain, and to see all of you recovering as well. I'm so excited about this bridge. It not only provides an important connection between Mountain Drive and the ranch, but it's also a vital connection for so many to the San Ysidro Trailhead. Of all the bridges, it's the ones that we've heard from the public the most about. And I think that's really interesting and shows what a treasure it has been for its important pedestrian, bike, and equestrian access to one of the community's most beloved trails. The bridge was designed and constructed with as much neighborhood input as was feasible. It includes a higher arch and a longer span to allow a 100-year storm event to pass under the bridge to increase the safety of the surrounding neighborhood, while continuing to allow public access and provides critical emergency vehicle access. And no bridge will be able to withstand every storm, but this bridge will be safer. I want to thank our Public Works Department, especially our Roads Division, Manager Chris Snedden, They were well poised to receive the infusion of cash from our settlement with SCE to get to work right away. And I also want to acknowledge a couple of heroes who are with us here, Fire Chief Aaron Briner and Wildland Specialist Maeve Juarez, I will not say Marv, from Montecito Fire District. All of us were able to be here today with less sadness because of you. And I want to just continue to promote her by saying that Maeve was awarded for those efforts the Medal of Valor. And just last, I'm honored to be the opening act for someone whose tale will definitely touch you, and that's our East Mountain Drive resident, John Keating. John?
Everybody, I'm John. My wife is Terry, and this is our house here. And we're in the process of rebuilding it. I was asked just to briefly share our story about what happened the night of the debris flow when we lost our last bridge. And it was a night that none of us will ever forget. And I know each one of us have our own stories from that night. I had happened to set my alarm for 3:30 in the morning and just to get up and check our drains before I went to work. And Terry came out with me. We were standing in front of our garage, and it was about 3:45. It was absolutely quiet. The rain had stopped. There was no mud or debris. And then we heard this loud crack. And Terry and I didn't know what it was, but we didn't wait to find out. We walked between our two cars through the garage, closed the garage doors, walked to the kitchen, and we were walking through the living room when our house literally exploded. It turns out the crack was the first boulder that came down San Ysidro Creek, ruptured a 22-inch, 1,000 PSI main gas transmission line. When that pressurized gas reached the pilot light for our hot water heater in our garage, it ignited it, causing a series of explosions. The first explosion blew a 5-foot section of that pipe through the front wall of our living room with glass and flames coming out of it about 5 feet in front of us. It blew Terry's Honda 30 feet through the air into our kitchen, about 10 feet behind us in 2 sections. My Toyota took out our garage wall, all 4 of those concrete patio walls, and ended up a mile downstream. The 500-pound Viking range in our kitchen exploded through the air. The one that we had just walked past exploded through the air over our head and landed in our master bedroom. We also had 3 huge trees that landed in our master bedroom and 7 boulders that were 5 or 6 foot diameter that landed in our house. 2 landed in the master, 2 in the living room, and 3 in the kitchen. The explosion also blew mud into the house, but the mud was all saturated with gas, and so it was all on fire. So we had flowing mud that was ablaze going through our house. With the explosion, Terry ran and jumped on the bed in our master bedroom. She was wearing a nightgown and she didn't want it to catch on fire, but then the bed all caught fire. So I went around the back side of the bed and she jumped off, and she was holding our 5-pound poodle, Sammy, at the time. The whole bedroom was ablaze from floor to ceiling, and so we couldn't get to the windows or French doors in there. So she took my hand and I pushed burning furniture out of the way to come back to the living room. And we saw that the picture window was missing. And I had just left the living room a minute earlier, but as I left, a second explosion had blown an antique corner cupboard 20 feet across the living room and took out the entire picture window, which gave us an escape route. So we went over to the window. Terry gave me Sammy and she climbed out. I dropped her as far as I could reach, but it was still second story, and it was high enough that she broke both feet when she landed. And then I took our poodle and I just tossed him out into the mud, and he just sunk into the mud and didn't move. And then I jumped out. And since Terry had broken feet, she couldn't really walk, and yet the flames were probably 100, 200 feet high, so we needed to get away from there. So we slowly made it over to our friend's house on Via Mañana. And we broke in there because at the time Terry was naked and freezing, and so we broke in to get shelter. And so she was able to take the dog blanket and cover herself, and we waited there, just kind of watching the fire, making sure it wasn't progressing any closer. And suddenly we heard a knock on the door, and two of the heroic firemen, Bob Galbraith and Dan Arnold, were going door to door on Via Manana looking for people that needed help. And so Dan guided us with his flashlight, and Bob actually carried Terry all the way down to Park Lane. And at Park Lane, we met Maeve Juarez, and Maeve actually took her clothes off and gave them to my wife to help her warm up. I'm sorry, even after 3 years, this is still fairly emotional. And Maeve was able to arrange helicopter support for us. At the time, all the helicopters were grounded, and because of the weather, but she was able to convince the Coast Guard that she had 2 burn victims who would be fatalities if they didn't rescue us. And so they came in. I was taken to Cottage Hospital and intubated, transferred to the Grossman's burn unit, and I was there for surgery for my burns, and I was on a ventilator for 4 days. And Maeve's decision saved my life. And Terry, my wife, was blind for 4 days from the explosion. And the explosion actually burnt her corneas. And she had 2 broken feet and multiple burns as well. And so we were both in the hospital for extended periods, but we got incredible care from everyone. Tragically, that night, 23 lives were lost, which still breaks all of our hearts. We also have heard great stories of lives that were saved from the explosion. The light from the explosion saved lives, which was wonderful. I know Terry and I feel blessed to be alive and grateful to the firemen and all the wonderful people who helped us that night and for months to come. And obviously, Santa Barbara is such a wonderful community. They really came together with all of this, and we feel fortunate to be rebuilding our home here. Obviously, rebuilding in the last 3 years in itself has been challenging for us, but I do want to thank DAS and the county, the building department, and flood control, because they really have gone out of their way to try to make this difficult process easier. You know, without the like-for-like proposal, we wouldn't be where we are now. So thank you for that. And I know all of us here are excited to have the bridge back. So I'm so thankful for that. And I'm so thankful for Maeve. She's my hero.
Wow. Thank you, John, for sharing your story. We appreciate that. That closes the formal portion of our presentation today, and anyone who would like to be in the photo for a ribbon cutting, please come over by Phil and Andrew and Doss, and we'll get the ribbon up and we'll get a photo and open the bridge officially. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
That is not a puppy.
He's a puppy.
He's a puppy.
He's only 2.5.
He's a little puppy.
Do we go behind the thing or in front?
He's the biggest puppy I've ever seen.
Behind. You can. Okay. And this is okay. We're gonna stop it there, so you can be there or you can be right there. I'm gonna be using him right here. Come on, sit. You want to cheat? Hold this. Go. Yeah. So let's we'll do this on the count of 3. Everyone, real tight.
Direction.